Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. I'm going to continue my conversation with Brian Domitrovic. He's a professor over there at Sam Houston State University, in fact, chairman of the history department, and one of the, kind of a rare breed these days with a PhD in economic history. I don't know what's up with that, but I think it's a very important discipline that I don't see enough of in academia. Brian, glad to have you on the program.
Really good to be here, Kevin.
By the way, what would be the best website to learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, Forbes.com/Brian Domitrovic. Sites.forbes.com/Brian Domitrovic.
Very good. Tell me a little bit about the Fraser Institute. Every year it seems like we get out, we do a review of the Fraser Institute's great work. And it's an organization out of Canada that's free market oriented, and they kind of do an assessment of what's happening worldwide on the freedom front, and specifically the economic freedom front. Did they release a new report again?
Yeah, they did. Their Economic Freedom of North America report for 2014. The Fraser Institute's based in Western Canada, where all the free market stuff is going on. And they're pointing out the uncomfortable truth that during these years of the Great Recession, government at the state level in the United States has increased. They've increased their spending, they've increased their employment roles, they've increased their regulation, and now the United States is falling behind countries like Canada. And you know what? We don't have to have this happen, but here it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of give me a breakdown of the top 10 in economic freedom. Do you have that information in front of you?
Yeah, I do. Now, Texas is number one, and the other top states are places that we've been hearing about lately, like the Dakotas. Somehow Virginia got up there, and I don't understand that. But New Hampshire and Louisiana are right there, too, to round out the top five. And the bottom are the usual suspects, New York, Vermont, Maine, but also Mississippi in the South. And I think that's because there's so many sweetheart contracts in places like Mississippi, so the state government is really embedded with kind of crony capitalist business interests. So you got to get out of that, and then you'll have real economic freedom and prosperity.
Meanwhile, Reason magazine is saying that three of Canada's provinces are doing better than even Texas.
Yeah, I saw that. So I guess Alberta, Saskatchewan, then I was surprised by Newfoundland as well. So it's also something to the Far East. Newfoundland, I should point out, wanted to join the United States when it had the option to in the 1940s. But anyway, so, yeah, I mean, if you snooze, you lose in the United States. I mean, if you want to just become Illinois or New York, business will migrate to the federal system, even to Canada, where there are, better regulatory and spending environments.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's just all a matter of the path of least resistance to profits. Isn't that what motivates business and individuals, the path of least resistance?
It would almost be a neglect of a fiduciary duty. I mean, why would you stay in Illinois? We just saw that Mercedes-Benz, they're moving their headquarters from New Jersey. Of course they are. New Jersey's high tax, high regulation to Georgia, just like Toyota moved from California to Texas last year.
Yeah, no question about it. It's incredible. It'd be interesting to know how many more cars are made in the southern part of the United States versus the northern part now. I'm sure it's
Kevin,
much,
I'm glad you mentioned that, because people talk about the decline of Detroit. Well, one person's decline is another person's rise. I mean, Detroit has declined, but car making has not declined in the United States. There's all sorts of car making in the United States. It's all in the South because Detroit got so sclerotic.
Yeah, those cheapskates in the South paying half of what they do up in Detroit. Well, that half is $40 an hour. What it translates into.
Car making is a wonderful occupation in the United States. I mean, in Tennessee, in the Carolinas. I mean, it's just that Detroit ran the auto companies out of there, and then they begged for subsidies.
Yeah, no question about it. I notice now that in the top 10 freest countries, United States is not on it. They have not been on it for a couple of years, I think, now. Ranking number 12. By the way, you can read this article at usdailyreview.com, the listener can. And shocking to see Chile, which, by the way, is kind of is heading in the wrong direction, I hear. Chile's beginning to head in the wrong direction when it comes to economic freedom. But it's still tied for 10th on that chart, and Canada looks like it's around 7 on that chart.
Yeah, Chile back in the 1970s, and the left hates to hear this, they decided to have a somewhat private Social Security system, and so their governmental profile is much lower than the United States is. And after the Great Recession and that huge boom in spending, Government spending went all the way up to near 40% of the American economy, about 37%. You can't have 4 out of 10 government dollars and expect not to collapse in the Economic Freedom Index. And then countries like Canada watch this and just say, oh, we'll trim government and watch the investment rush into our country. So, they're just picking our pockets.
Yeah, no question about it. Always enjoy having Brian Domitrovic on the program. By the way, you can learn more about him. Again, your best website that you would like to drive people to.
Forbes.com cites Brian Domitrovic.
Yeah, no question about it. And what are some of your plans or goals in 2015 and getting the word out about economic freedom?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm publishing another book. Larry Kudlow and I are writing a history of the John F. Kennedy tax cut, and it's done. It's in the hands of the publisher. And we intend to show the publishing audience that Democrats used to cut taxes, too, and demand a strong dollar. And when they did so, we had really historic booms, things like 50% growth over 8 years. So it's time for this to be kind of bipartisan, and we're going to take that message to the streets this year.
Yeah, that's exactly right. John F. Kennedy said that a rising tide will lift all boats.
Yep.
And that what he was referring to was tax cuts, and he said we have two basic ways of stimulating the economy. We can do it with government spending or we can do it with tax cuts. One will create deficits, the other one will create revenue. And, wow, imagine a Democrat saying that today.
Yeah, and all the liberals supported him. You know why they supported him? Because they said, oh, this is the secret to more revenue. If you cut taxes, there's going to be more revenue. They were making Laffer curve arguments themselves before they used to trash the Laffer curve. And so it's all right there in the Democratic tradition. That's why you have to keep cutting taxes. John Kennedy said that, we're going to cut taxes now. It's going to work so well. We're going to have to cut them again because they'll keep increasing revenues. And so that was kind of the world we lost. I mean, if John F. Kennedy had lived, I bet we would have had that result.
See, if I were, well, first of all, if I were in charge, I'd get rid of all taxes on businesses anyway, because businesses don't pay taxes. They collect them. That's all they do. Right. It's an intellectually dishonest form of taxation. But if you're going to keep that system, I would link our tax rate with the lowest of our competitors internationally, the industrialized countries. And if they lowered our taxes, ours would automatically get lower, and we'd have to adjust spending immediately to give businesses no reason to ever consider moving anywhere else. That's what I would do.
Kevin, that's a great idea. The funny thing is we seem to be doing the exact opposite. We find what's the highest corporate tax rate in the world, and then we try to leapfrog that a little bit right now. So you're right. I mean, all that growth and investment we're leaving on the table because we don't do things like you suggest. Yeah,
it's just common sense. I don't think people think consequentially. I really don't. Or if they do, they have intentions that are negative, which I my parents always taught me to think better of people, but I have to begin to wonder when you look at the result of these policies, particularly with this administration. Brian Domitrovic, always great to have you on. Thanks so much.
Really good to be here, Kevin.
Look forward to talking to you again soon. When we come back, much more for you. I do want to remind you best content here, including great information about this report on America's economic freedom can be found over there at usadareview.com.